My name is Dean Goishi. We're in Lake Alfred, Florida, where I am retired with my partner, Tom Callahan. I was born in Poston concentration camp way back 79 years ago. We moved to Ridley, where I grew up. And Ridley is a very small agricultural community with a fairly good sized Japanese American or Japanese community. Went to grammar school, high school, the junior college there. My friends were all Japanese Americans. My first contact with non-Japanese was probably in junior high school when I joined the Boy Scouts. It was an eye-opener in finding out about how other people live and outside of the Japanese Americans. You know, we're in a community where you really didn't have to learn English or know English in order to survive because we had our own Japanese markets. There's Christian Japanese churches. I belong to the Buddhist church. None of the gay issues or even sex issues came up until I left high school. So we were very sheltered from that standpoint. Even though I had girlfriends in our group of friends, it didn't occur to me that we were supposed to interact from a standpoint of dating or from a sexual standpoint. It was all, we were friends, and that's the way it was. Until I started experimenting or looking into a homosexuality, which was the first inkling that maybe I was different or knew what gay issues were. The homosexuality is where you learn because I looked it up in the encyclopedia, the dictionaries, went to the library, and had the feeling that there was something else going on. And all my friends, we didn't talk about sex or homosexuality or my interaction with non-Japanese, where I probably would have learned more about being gay or the gay areas. I didn't have that interaction, so it was when I look at it, it was actually a very naive homo ignorance, which I coined, of life, and it wasn't something that we talked about or even thought about because it just wasn't our psychic to be that way. You went to school, you did well, made good grades, you didn't embarrass the family. All those cultural issues were very prominent, and it was within the Japanese Americans to be Japanese. And from my standpoint, my mother was very astute to that, I think, issue in the sense of she did tell me, you'll never be Caucasian or white. You are always going to be Japanese, and you should take the good from the Japanese culture and the American culture, marry it, and then be the person you are. But always a good person. Like in junior high school, if I were to listen to the principal there, she always kept after me saying, step out, you're mincing as you're walking down the hall, or something like that. Not in a sense of being mean or anything. It just was, I think, more masculine to be talking and walking and stuff like that. Also in high school, not in high school, but grammar school, being Buddhist, we were involved with Obon, which is the Buddhist festival of ancestors. And Obon, not the religious part, but the dancing part. We always had Obon odoris throughout the Central Valley, Fresno, all the little churches and little towns had Obon. And one year, I remember my mom helping me because Fresno Obon was the largest. And they had a costume contest. I really liked Obon because you get to out there, you dance, you're free, people had good fun. But anyway, at this contest, I thought, well, maybe it would be good because there was a cash prize. I think it was about $50. So my mom, of all, encouraged me to dress up in kimono. Kimono is a furisoda with the long sleeves as a single girl. She even made me a black yarn pigtail that I was supposed to wear. And I wore it. And you hide the rubber band in your hair so you don't see the rubber band. But the pigtails all came down when I was actually taking off the pigtails and flipped it off. And sitting near where we were sitting was one of the judges for the contest. And he was astonished that a male would get out there, dress up as a girl, and have pigtails, and they didn't catch it. So I got an honorary mention, you might say. And they gave me I think it was $25 check. Why I mentioned that is because my mom encouraged me to do that, because I don't know why, but she did encourage. And I think it was more or less to expand and think about other things other than being a male. A couple of years of the following years, I really decided to have a contest. But I had the idea of I would be Miss Ridley, and I would dress up in the kimono and furi soda and dance. And I even made myself a tiara and a sash, Miss Ridley. I did notice people from, especially men, older men, looking my way, sort of crazy, what a crazy person. But, even that I did not associate with being gay or whatever. And I had a lot of fun, and even the number of years I was in Ridley after that, all through high school area, when I danced, it was more or less not as a female, but a male that enjoyed Obon. But I don't recall ever being teased or bullied or being associated with a girl from that standpoint. So I kind of think I was very lucky. And the family and my brothers, they never teased me from that standpoint. It was just something I did. And from my standpoint, as you're saying, I was comfortable with myself all through that. I didn't really learn about gays or that whole segment until I left Ridley and went to the University of California, Berkeley. I was in the Buddhist dorms for my first year there. And there I had interactions with non-Ridley people, or urban people, rural people. So the urban people sort of took me under the wings and introduced me to not the gay life, but heterosexual life. But then that also introduced me to Polk Street, the gay bars, and I got attached, not attached, but sucked into going to, I should say that was not a Freudian slip. It was just more or less a spur of the moment. But anyway, Phoebe's and the Ramrod, but a gay bar was the Pink Cloud on Polk Street. That is where I probably should say I came out as a gay person. It was also a totally Caucasian bar because all along Polk Street, none of the bars were Asian focused. And therefore, the gay models that I had were probably Caucasian or black or whatever. So that is where I think gravitated to more so than the Asian bars, which were on the other side of Market Street. It was probably in Los Angeles, from Moogie's, and that's where I met all my gay Asian acquaintances. I forget what the other Asian bar was. It was an upstairs bar, and here again, it wasn't my take because, from that standpoint, I was interested in meeting Caucasians who liked Asians. I was always more interested in, at that point in my life, trying to encourage other gay Asians to take more of an assertive role in their life. So at that point, I was involved with Asian Pacific lesbian and gays, and we sort of promoted Asians to be really able to come out, get to know other gay Asians, to be more sociable, since many of the time we were finding gay Asians to be very lone, by themselves, not knowing a community for themselves. That was how APLG got started, and we actually promoted the Asians to take more of a leadership role, and you didn't have to be involved with a Caucasian person in order to have a social life, you might say. I do think of myself as a very quiet person. I don't want to be in the spotlight. I would rather vegetate, read my Kindle, and do my Chigie or whatever else. But advocacy is not necessarily something I would say I am. But when I first started and go to the HIV/AIDS meetings, in the beginning, I used to be the only Asian there. There were no other Asians involved with HIV and AIDS. So from that standpoint, you sort of step into a sort of a, if you want to call it, leadership role. But it was a role that if you didn't step out, or if I didn't step out, nobody else would. And we would be left out, and we would be left behind in both services, money, funds, and so forth. So it was one of those thinking in my mind that somebody had to do it. And if somebody did do it, then we would be left behind. I did have a role in making sure that Asians were not left behind. Asians, Pacific Islanders was involved with the AIDS and HIV funding policy, and we were not forgotten, you might say, which was going to be, I think, a money issue from a standpoint that if we were not there, then there were many other communities, other organizations that would step in and take that money that should be given to Asians. If you don't step up, you lose out. Only because if you're quiet, if you sit and don't do anything, you're not heard. People are not going to be hearing you because they have their own issues that they want to get across to the policymakers. And talking to other Asian Americans involved with HIV and AIDS, I think they all had that feeling and inspiration to themselves is if they didn't talk, no one else was going to. And for Los Angeles to have as much money allocated or funding, and no Asian communities were involved with HIV and AIDS or funded for HIV and AIDS education or prevention is a loss for us. APIT still exists today. They have a sizable Asian community staff, but I kind of think they're able to expand the mission of APIT in more of a HIV and AIDS community and providing services for them from a cultural sensitivity standpoint. In my dealings with HIV and AIDS at APIT, I really felt that Asians in particular did not really address HIV and AIDS until they were well into their infection. And in Asian community and transition, it was almost 90% at that point gay, men to men, that transmission was involved. Shame was involved. Embarrassment was extremely involved. In order to be identified as HIV and AIDS or be infected with HIV, it was a coming out process.
Yeah.
You are already stigmatized with HIV,
Yeah.
but you are further stigmatized because you were gay. Many Asians at that point were in the closet, were down low individuals. They had families, wives, children, but on a side play with other men, which was, I think, in their minds, acceptable because they were married, they had the family, and to the family, that bloodline was more important. And I feel many Asians, because they did not want to be self-identified, stayed in the closet, both from the gay issues as well as the HIV. You know, in Galang, you wanted to project that you could take care of yourself, or you're supposed to take care of yourself. And to ask for help is an embarrassment on yourself and eventually on your family. And that was one of the paramount issues that you wanted to avoid was to cause embarrassment to your family. My father passed away when I was still in school, but my mother was alive. She read the Rafu Shippo. She read the Hokubei Mainichi out of the Bay Area. My name, picture, was in both newspapers. So I have to understand that she read, she knew all of that, but nothing was said. After I met Tom and we became a couple, we were in Fresno, and by that time she was at a point where she was living with my brother. We had gone to Fresno to see her, and I went to take a shower. He was with my mother, and she supposedly did not speak English, but she knew enough English to tell Tom, you know, when you get back to Los Angeles or wherever, find Dean a nice girl, get married, and all that good stuff. The night before, believe it or not, I had tried to explain to my mother that we were a couple and all that. I think it went in one ear, went out the other. I didn't know what the countries were for homosexuals in Japanese. So I only could try to explain through pictorial hand waving and other terms which were not scientific enough for her to understand, or she chose not to understand. And they just went that way. So it was a total waste of time. She never would accept it. Although my brothers knew already, my cousins, both sides of the cousins accepted Tom, invited him to all the functions, and when we did meet, he was included in the conversation. So it wasn't like they were in the dark about gay issues or gay life. Yeah, it was one of those things that, no, I don't think my mother, no matter how much I explained, would have wanted to understand what was going on. She just wanted grandkids, I think. We had a mutual friend who was telling us separately that he knew someone who we probably would like. We had similar thinking, and he would like to have us over for dinner. However, it never happened. The friend never invited us over for dinner. Individually, yes, but not together. So we never got together. And it just so happened, one evening, I decided to go to a bar in Silver Lake. It was called Cuffs. Up to a certain part in time in the evening, it was a neighborhood bar, a clean bar. Tom doesn't think that, but I do. After 10 o'clock, it became a raunchy bar, and anything happened. But anyway, it just so happened that we went in, or I went into the bar. He was already there. Oh, he looked sassy. He was in Levi's. He had a white shirt. He had a cigarette in his hand. And he had Latino boys hanging over him. So, as a clean-cut Japanese American, you could not associate with that kind of people, you know. So my feeling was, if that many Latino boys could follow you and fondle your t-shirt and do that, then you are not good for me. Stay away. No. There had to be other people involved. I mean, there were other cleaner cut Caucasian boys there. And they may like a clean cut Japanese for a date. So I was there minding my own business, um, sitting, having my beer. He came over and started talking and said, hi and all that good stuff. And I already, in my mind, thought, no, no, no. Just be cordial, but nothing else. So anyway, he went home and I went home. We never did exchange phone numbers. So the following week, I went back to Cuffs and he was there. And we started chatting again. And Sydney's name came up in our conversation, or actually in the conversation. And you know that there are not too many Sydney's name in Asian named Sydney. So at that point, I thought, not to Tom, but in my own mind, this is Sydney. This may be the guy he was telling me about. And at that point, Tom also, I think, got into his mind. He's going to call Sydney and get my phone number. But anyway, it turned out all right. Everything went well. And that, I think, lasted for close to 31 years. I would probably say to be true to myself and what I thought. I think my mother really summed it up when she said, learn the good parts of the Japanese culture and learn the good of the American culture, marry the two and make the best of it. And I kind of think my speaking to myself was to do that. It wasn't, I feel I lived at a very, I had a guardian angel, I think, watching over what I did. I thought I made good choices. I think I would tell myself to always be good to yourself, be good to other people, follow the golden rule, which I felt I picked up from Buddhistic thinking of being true to not yourself, but to other people. Always listen to the other person and their thoughts, and try to see the good in people. And I think I would still probably tell myself that from that standpoint, because I've run across, not just with Tom and I, but a lot of good people, a lot of good Asian gay folks who not was thinking about a career or making money for themselves, but how they could work for the community and trying to make the community a better place.